Could the Great Depression happen to us again? We think of it as a terrible time.
According to Forbes Business Magazine, another economic depression could happen, and it's even likely to. In fact, the next great economic depression could be just as bad or even worse than the Great Depression.
The International Monetary Fund has just released its World Economic Outlook, and their forecasts are dramatic. The global economy is expected to contract by 3% in 2020, which would make the coronavirus crisis the worst recession since the Great Depression in the 1930s. Just weeks after the first report of a new coronavirus, the IMF predicted the economy would grow by 3.3% in 2020. Just 3 months later, that has been revised down to negative 3%. An adjustment of this scale in such a short period is exceptionally rare.
The Great Lockdown has...
Just like a war, there is no clear end date for the pandemic and the subsequent economic shock we are experiencing. So you can see why this is a different crisis to the one seen in 2008. Back then, the epicenter of the problem was the financial system. But now, every single industry is being impacted.
The U.S. economy has taken a huge hit in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic.
President Trump says that the U.S. may be heading into a recession because of the coronavirus.
Economists have implied that a recession may be looming. Some have even made comparisons to the Great Depression.
Is this hyperbole, or is the U.S. economy truly in deep trouble?
First, let's define a recession.
We typically define a recession as 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. The National Bureau of Economic Research will look back at GDP growth, they'll look at gross domestic income, they'll look at employment numbers, and they will put it together to try to identify the start and end of the recession.
In terms of why we use the word recession, we use it because the economy is not behaving normally. We are in a recession. Whether you call it a technical recession in the sense of 2 quarters, we are in a deep, deep downturn.
Economists are using different models to attempt to predict how the economy will respond to the coronavirus pandemic.
There's 2 models. One is a natural disaster, and when a hurricane passes, everyone returns to work and an economy snaps right back to normal. Another model is a financial crisis, and after a financial crisis, it often takes 5 to 10 years for the economy to return to normal.
Because of the ongoing health crisis, it's harder to tell how this will pan out. So if it's still too soon to call this a recession, why have some economists started talking about a depression?
The Great Depression, unemployment reached 25%. Most people think that we are likely to reach those levels of unemployment.
According to science.
First, find more ways to make money.
Is your job really secure? Remember that during hard times, people only buy essentials. Does your company provide essentials? And are you an indispensable employee? It's unlikely that your job is 100% secure.
Second, save your money.
If you don't watch your spending, you'll just bleed money and not have a plan or a safety net for lean times or emergencies. When the economy is going downhill, first it will be described as a recession, then it becomes a depression. So fix your finances. Use a software program to track your spending or write everything down in a book. That way you can see where your money's going and make some choices.
Third, defend yourself.
It may seem unbelievable now, but society can fall apart fast. Fear and hunger can make people desperate and aggressive. They'll raid your resources, whether it's your food or items they can sell after they steal them. So, buy the best locks you can for your doors. Put your children in self-defense classes. Take some classes yourself and learn how to protect yourself from attackers.
Fourth, grow your own food.
Even if you live in an apartment, you can grow tomatoes, beans, and broccoli. For someone who's used to eating pizza and takeout, it's hard to imagine that you may have to grow your own food, but it could just be the key to your survival. People grow herbs at home all the time, but many have also begun indoor gardens or rooftop gardens that include root vegetables and edible plants. You can join them and become an urban gardener too.
Fifth, prepare your mind.
Find ways to think positive thoughts. This might be the hardest task during a depression, but it may save your life. When our world falls apart into chaos, it tests our inner strength. Our friendships and family become even more important, and we must be resourceful.